We will continue with the news program and go back to what happened in March 2025. Let us recall that at that time, in San Carlos de Bariloche, a situation arose in which a person was accused of human trafficking. At some point, there was also talk of certain conditions that affected or directly harmed the state of these people. This concerns Konstantin Rudnev, 58 years old, who, since the moment of his arrest, has been held in Rosen.
For that reason, we are now in telephone communication with Carlos Broitman, Rudnev's defense attorney. I agree to you, Octavio Crespo, Natalia Calderon.
How are you, Octavio? How is everyone doing? To the entire audience of Bariloche in surrounding areas who listen to you so much.
Well, thank you very much for this communication. And first of all, I would like to ask you, information has been circulating in recent hours about a request for house arrest for Rudnev. It was also said that the prosecutor's office rejected the judge's ruling, and now the chamber will decide. Is this correct, doctor?
Yes. But beyond everything, beyond disagreements, what we have to highlight are two issues. The underlying case, which is technically destroyed with the prosecutorial hypothesis destroyed, I tell you so, since they carried out evidentiary actions without evidence. They submitted information that came from Russia that has nothing to do with anything. And because if Rudnev spent 11 years in prison there, in Siberia, in a maximum security prison, with what that does to a person's health after 11 years in a prison from one end to the other, which is not like here, prisons here would be Disney. This is detrimental. He came, passed through Montenegro, was looking for a place like Bariloche, and it was a place of rest. Think that at one time, because of his beliefs, he had many followers. Followers because by bringing people closer to yoga, closer to nature and healthy living, he generated followers around the world. Now then, this was what caused it. For Putin's regime and for the Orthodox Church, he was like an attack, just as they attack Krishna followers, just as they have fought against a large number of within religious ideas, except traditional ones. They have fought them, and the church and the regime are subject to a rigid will not to allow anyone freedom of spiritual belief. Very well. Now all of this was used against him. And here they spoke of a transnational group, people dedicated to trafficking. A single victim, in theory, an alleged victim, who from the first day said she was not a victim. Before this defense came in, before any other defense attorney came in, which I will reserve myself, I will not speak of other colleagues, they consented to carrying forward a complex case when it had absolutely nothing complex about it. And the evidence is in the testimonial statements themselves, which were doubts induced inside the hospital, where one of the nurses and obstetricians admitted that they lied by telling this woman that she could not otherwise have her baby, as happened with 23,000 Russian women who had babies in Argentina in the last 3 years. 23,000, one more. They told her that she could not take her child unless the father came or they provided a document from the father. The baby would remain inside the hospital without being handed over to the mother.
Doctor, with this situation you are describing, excuse me for interrupting, but I want to ask you a question. What would be the direct accusations that keep him detained in Argentina?
Well, the direct accusations, first, there is one. Under the new Federal Criminal Procedure Code, they put together, and I say it this way, they put together a hypothesis of accusation of a group of a transnational criminal organization dedicated to human trafficking, kidnapping of children, money laundering, all the criminal offenses they could think of. They even said, and you are aware of this, the public prosecutor's office itself declared and posted on its social networks that they had seized cocaine pills from people close to Rudnev. Ultimately, entire shipment of cocaine pills was nothing. They were over-the-counter medications. So imagine the picture. Kidnapping of Russian children searched for all over Bariloche and surrounding areas. Every addition gave rise to the news last year so that it would explode throughout Argentina and spread to Europe. Ultimately, they said he had an arrest warrant from Montenegro. Montenegro stated that there was nothing. All of this now boils down to this, that until April 3rd, they have time to make a serious accusation because the previous lawyers consented to the case being considered complex.
For April 3rd, Doctor, how do you see the outlook?
The outlook as a defense attorney delights me. I told you I can start the trial today in December. This is something that collapses under its own weight.
How do you then explain the testimonies and the investigation that advanced? I mean, one does not go to prison for nothing.
No. People do not go to prison preventively for nothing, but they do go. How many people have been in prison? Let me ask you a question. Garcia Belsunce, how many years was he in prison?
I wouldn't know.
Well, I can give you 10 more cases. So the presumption of innocence is not broken.
Now they have him in prison because they say he has the capacity to. Where would he want to escape to? What Rudnev wants is to prove his innocence. But the worst of all is that this caused in 1 year a severe deterioration of his health. With tests that were done at the Santa Teresita Hospital, with top-level doctors we appointed from the hospital de Clínicas, Dr. Luis Sarotto, president of the Argentine Association of Surgery, researchers like Dr. Mariano Duarte in hypertension and cardiology with international awards they ordered a battery of tests that in 5 or 6 months they could not even complete half of. And the person lost 50 kilos since he entered the prison.
Yes, the images currently being released of Rudnev clearly show this physical change. That is why I would also like to ask you what pathologies your client presents that justify this request for house arrest. Why can he not be treated within the prison?
No, inside the prison, they cannot treat him at all because they have no equipment, they have no clinic. 4 doctors have already testified, even the experts appointed by the public prosecutor's office said that this person should be hospitalized.
But what pathology does he have?
He has early-stage pulmonary fibrosis. He has a serious problem of internal bleeding and diarrhea with blood. For 6 months, they have been giving him medication to try to coagulate. They could not perform a high or low video colonoscopy in 5 months. They could not perform spirometry. There is no battery of tests. So what did the judge say? He has to go to a place that is within the time window to reach a high complexity center, which Chubut does not have, Bariloche does not have, the South does not have. Because when there were problems with governors from all regions, where did they go? To Buenos Aires.
They were taken by air ambulance to Buenos Aires. So if this person has a serious and imminent risk, he dies and there is no trial. The judge said, in light of this, to the residents and urgently to receive medical care. The prosecutors, in what I consider a presumably obtuse manner, say, we appeal, we appeal. What do they want? For him to die? Why don't they move the trial forward?
Of course, that was another question I was going to ask you. If this health situation, which surely comes with all the medical indications, can bring that date forward, and on the other hand, what would be the residence that would be set for him to continue his house arrest?
They also got that wrong. They said there was a contract that expired in March and the contract expires in 2027. There is a person they said was foreign and not legally resident.
A Mexican woman who came to help Rudnev, okay?
She came to help him because during the pandemic, Rudnev helped their company, which is a very large company producing lab coats in Mexico. There are people who, with Rudnev's advice on a personal, social, or economic level, benefited. And these grateful people came and said, I will be the guardian. And there is also an Argentine guardian who was presented. So there is no way to distort this. The diagnosis made by the expert to place the ankle monitor is optimal, it is suitable, there is medium signal. We are in Argentina. There is no full signal anywhere, not even in the capital. Calls drop and not all antennas work. So it can be done perfectly because there are GPS and electronic means. Can the Argentine state not have a controlled and sick person in a residence? That was the question I asked them. If you say he cannot be controlled, you are going against the system and against the Ministry of Security that was carried out by Minister Bullrich, now a senator, and that left her second lines in charge of the ministry, where security measures and the Ministry of Security have fulfilled their role and have a function like never before in Argentina.
Dr. Broitman, defense attorney for Rudnev, we thank you for this telephone communication.
I think that clarified things quite a bit, right? I think it clarified things quite a bit.
We said thank you very much for the contact and the information so we can know the progress. Now the chamber will determine what the response will be to this request made by the defense. We thank you for the contact with News Program 6.
To you, to News Program 6, many greetings to everyone. Goodbye.
Well, that's it then.
Some of the important information regarding the follow-up of this investigation. Now, this will surely be updated on April 3rd, as the lawyer mentioned. Shall we go to a break?
We'll be right back.